Hello, friends. Welcome. I'm Richard Moss.
And I'm Kathy Fellows.
We're a team, a couple, lovers, dear friends, married. The ability to bring this freely given webinar to you is thanks to a very generous grant from an organization called Three Mountain Foundation. I helped found them back in 1984 or so, and they've gone on to support the work that I've done and now Kathy and I do and other teachers. So it was very, very gracious of them to say, this is a time of COVID. People are really can't come face to face in person for this work. Let's offer something freely offered and bring to those folks the message and the path and the energy that we know really is necessary now. It's always necessary. It's particularly necessary at a time like this. So first, just thank Alain Lemaire and Christian Bergman and Elisa Mather, who are part of our admin and support team. And in addition to the foundation, and then just to acknowledge all of you.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Right. So what we'd like to do is begin with lighting a candle. Sometimes when Kathy and I want to have a deep conversation, which we call counsel, we ritualize it specifically by lighting a candle and being quiet for a little bit. It's a way of acknowledging to ourselves, to a deeper part of ourselves, that we're entering into not just a secular exchange, but much more than that, a consecrated exchange, a sacred exchange. And while we know that is the way we listen all the time, the moment we sense that we're now touching on territory that is important for deep listening and listening to where we're speaking from, nevertheless, from time to time, to really make it a ritual is very important. And that's what we feel today with all of you.
Yes, and often adding a dedication. And, my dedication is that, may this time be a service to all of humanity. And I think really this pandemic is creating so much anxiety and stress, and now more than ever, we need to really find our ground. And so may this be in service to all of those who are suffering, struggling to find some ease, some ground of our basic sanity and humanity. So it really is a dedication of love.
Mm-hmm. Oh. So we said broadly that what we're sharing about today and in the coming webinars is about resiliency at a time of significant challenge, unusual challenge, a challenge that is global with the pandemic, as Kathy just said. And we know a little bit, science tells us a little bit about resiliency. For example, children who have significant challenge when they're young, not Kathy differentiates between stretching and tearing. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of challenge when we're young. Maybe it's a health challenge. Maybe it's a health challenge for a parent. But it's significant enough, and yet it isn't a tear. It's a big stretch. Those children later in life, and for as long as people have been tracked, are better adapted to stress for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. It's also true that if what happens early in life is more than just a stretch, more than just a challenge, a difficult challenge, but really becomes a tear, loss of a parent, abandonment by family, things that really disrupt a sense of continuity for a child.
Abuse.
And abuse, exactly. Then these things are not easy for people to adapt to. And the stress response for those kinds of folks is really not good. And yet, this is what science tells us based on studying large numbers of people. It's statistical. What we're here to tell you is that every single person, every one of us is an individual. And our capacity to adapt, no matter what happened early in life, is not limited to what happened in early life, no matter how much of a tear it may have been. Now, so we know from our own lives, and we know from our work with people, thousands of people over the years, that everyone using the power of their own instrument of consciousness, their aware self, can heal and go beyond healing, can begin to evolve and share that which they have never lived before. We believe that where we've arrived in our own relationship is, you were talking about no more low-hanging fruit.
Well, when you've been on the path for a while and really, getting into the weeds and getting into the deepest areas of contraction or holding. In the beginning, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, but
yeah, the psychological stuff,
right,
the family of origin stuff.
Yeah, but then, some of the really, really deep, fundamental contractions, the core wounds, it takes time. It takes time, and it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. But it isn't just that we're constantly in a process of healing. We begin to work through relational depth to places that didn't exist before, which is something we've experienced in our own relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We think, and we think about it today, this, for example, myself sitting here and Kathy there, but then there's our relationship. So it's like if we were sitting around a fire, a sacred fire, like we did a few months ago at the side of the lake. Or a sacred candle. So there's Richard, there's Kathy, and there's our relationship. All three of us are sitting here. And before we started today, we sat down together, lit a candle, and we took hand between, and then we put our hand on a cushion that represented our relationship. And we included our relationship as this growing entity, this living consciousness that is bridging us and evolving us beyond just the things that have to be healed. And there's no limit. I think there's no limit in that evolving process. No more low-hanging fruit, but the challenge to be available to love in ourselves, with each other, endlessly. And you were talking about post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, and also the science of PTSD. They're reframing the post-traumatic stress disorder to post-traumatic growth. And the greater the trauma, the greater the possibility for growth and evolution. And again, it's not easy, but the possibility is there.
Literally, the people who've experienced, most of the work with post-traumatic growth is being done with military people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the ones that really suffered the most difficult trauma are the ones that have the potential to evolve more completely and to keep evolving. It's difficult, it's challenging, it's a difficult start, but that's what this new data is showing, this new research is showing. And it just talks to the innate resiliency that we have as human beings.
Mm-hmm. There are people who I know who have suffered from cancer and come through it, and they say that it's the best thing that ever happened to them, because in essence, the struggle through the cancer actually gave them life. and a capacity to live life much more fully than if they hadn't had that challenge.
Yeah, to live life moment by moment, to know what really matters. So that's the broad foundation upon which we are sharing with you. Where there is challenge, there is opportunity. That's well known. And it's not just a euphemism, it's a deep truth. So let's take.
I just want to add one thing to that. Just in my own process over the years, we talk about that. It's like, those oh shit moments, and it's like when you're really digging into the deeper fears and the anxieties, and it's kind of like a lot of shit. But at some point, the shit actually becomes, you realize, is fertilizer. And then the fertilizer actually becomes a hallelujah moment. So every time I feel I'm getting to some deep contraction, it's a hallelujah moment, because I know that it's another step in my own personal liberation. And that's really true freedom for me, is we're really freeing ourselves to be fully true and authentic and
to go beyond the strength that we can develop as an individual into the strength that we can develop through relational intelligence and relational risk, to take the risk of believing in each other's capacity to find our way home in ourselves, or a little bit closer to home in ourselves. And to trust that we have a deep implicit trust in that. And the fact that trust has grown gradually over time is a state of marvel and wonderment. I no longer ever have any doubt about how you will journey inside of yourself and what will emerge eventually when you're ready to share. I don't have to take care of anything except myself, and attune to our relationship again and again and again. The question, what is its agenda, maybe not is the same as what my agenda is, or Kathy's at any given moment. And the question of, what does the relationship really want? What is it actually in service to, beyond what we understand? And I think we have no doubt that all relationships ultimately are in service to making us more intelligent and heartful. Heart intelligence, a mind that becomes a servant to heart intelligence. That all relationships are in service to love.
Mm-hmm. And it's really the fundamental thing that I think most people are longing for, to love and be loved. And that play is so precious. It's so beautiful to be able to be in that flow and to be in that energy.
And there's no limit to it.
No.
We've reached the point in our lives where we truly understand that there's no limit to intimacy. Every level of intimacy, there's no limit to it. We'll never reach the end of it. And that's an incredible sense of blessing, that we can't reach the end, that we're never going to reach a limit, that we'll be surprised every day, every single day.
Continual deepening and unfolding and into love and into life.
And that's the resiliency that comes from relationship. But many, many of you are going to be single people, and will immediately in your head say, but I don't have someone to live that with. Yes, you actually do. Yes, you do, all the time. Because it starts with yourself.
Yeah.
And then if you say, whatever relationship I'm engaged with, whoever it's out there, professional, social, casual, just a brief passing in the day. Maybe it's with someone that's helping you at a supermarket, and you say to yourself, what does love look like in this context, in this moment? And what is inside of me that might stop me from believing that there is a potential, a resonance, a radiance of love, or something of that nature that creates a kind of spaciousness in you and within the other. So there's no such thing as not being in a relationship. So let's nix that.
And it starts with you.
Always, always,
So.
always. I mean, so the question I always did for years was teaching, what is it that closes my heart? Because if you want to know love, and if you want to become a servant of love, an instrument of love, which seems to me to be the fundamental purpose to be on the planet, and it's what we need. We need the ability to be in deeper and deeper relationship with each other. It's through relationship and through the diversity of the relationships we work to integrate that we become more and more empowered, not only as individuals, but collectively as people, as human beings on planet Earth. And especially now, as we are just facing a pandemic and we realize that the organisms out there, they're not hostile to us, even if they kill us. This is just nature. But where does our resiliency come from? If not from our relationships to each other, and then ultimately with nature herself. And so we see the world turning to solve the problems of things like biodiversity being lost and global warming, which are the collateral damage of being very successful with our heads, very successful survivors. So what do you do? What do you do? Let's just settle for a minute or two, just quietly, wherever you are. No agenda for the moment. What's always here?
And just take a few deep breaths. The breath is always a great way to begin, just to create a little space.
Remember, you have much more than just a mind.
And if you notice taking a few just deep conscious breaths, there's an immediate relaxation response in the body. Just inviting you to relax, relaxing into this moment. Becoming more present.
Just feel the natural sufficiency of your being right now. The mind can tell us, I need more, I'm not good enough, or this or that, and make us feel insufficient. But if you just let the mind quiet, the sense of being sufficient as you are right now, feeling that. Beginning to know it. It's a quieting in your body, a softening, a relaxing, just like Kathy said. be sufficient as we are. Right now, here. To start to trust that. I am sufficient as I am.
And in this process, we're really connecting to the deeper ground. And the Tibetan Rinpoche once said, the reason we meditate is so that when the world pulls the rug out from under us, we have a ground to stand on. And this is the ground they call the groundless ground. Groundless because it's not something that you can stomp around on physically, but it's a deep ground because it's always present, always supporting us. It's always there. It is our nature. And it's us, our awareness, that disconnects. So relaxing into that groundless ground, that space that is always holding us and our being. Seek refuge in being. Seek refuge in this ground. That's what will hold us in deep resilience.
And it's true. People of faith, people of religious faith, they tend to be more resilient than people who don't have that. In part, it's because it's community. It's a group of people that have a shared belief and gather together to celebrate that belief. But there's always a shadow to a religion. A group that aligns itself together often has to protect the rules and dogma of their own particular faith.
And always creating another.
Yes, and then there's someone outside that's different, and that difference isn't necessarily complementary, but threatening. So there's a shadow. And the ground we're talking about here, where Kathy's just talking about, is your ground. It's this moment. It's very much in your body. You won't find the ground in your thinking. So what uproots us? Okay, if we're easily uprooted, then we say, oh, I can't deal with this. This is too much. Yesterday we were walking, Kathy said, rooted in the groundless ground. And I said, what's up? What uproots us? And she said,
a bazillion things can uproot you. That's what I said. I think the possibilities are endless of what can pull us out.
But what pulls us out is always a thought, or a thought about something we're feeling rather than actually feeling what we're feeling. This is a feeling I don't want to feel, is the thought. As opposed to, what am I actually feeling? This is a bad feeling, is the thought. Instead of, what is this really? What am I actually feeling? And, the mind just keeps going, thought after thought. I'm not sufficient because I don't have enough, or I didn't do well enough, or my parents didn't approve of me enough, or someone just didn't, I didn't get the promotion at work, or endless. As if something that's going to root you comes from outside, but you need it from outside. It's true, a little child needs it from outside. It's one of the really deep traumas that children have trouble growing beyond, is the loss of a parent, or the parent that doesn't acknowledge them and that doesn't mirror them, that is abusive, either by not giving them children sufficient attention or giving them the wrong kind of attention. And yet all that means is that there's a residue for the rest of our lives of sensation and feeling.
It's like an energetic imprint.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it is a sensation. It is a feeling, which means it can be held, it can be heard, it can be listened to. You can communicate with it, you can talk to it. You can personify it. It's a scared child or a wounded child. It's a terrified child.
And the key is being able to have a relationship with whatever that sensation is, whatever that pain is. If you can have a relationship with it, a conscious relationship with it, that's the first step toward healing. And there's an innate intelligence in the body toward health and healing. It's not something we have to manufacture. We just have to allow, become present.
Mm-hmm. It is innate. Years ago, there was a study of midwives in England. And what they found was that the midwives that had the most experience had the least complications. The women giving birth that were in labor had the least complications when the midwives had the most experience. And they had more complications when the midwives were newly trained and were, coming, with a little bit of anxiety, checking the fetal heart rate, checking the mother's heart rate, checking because of fear, of distrust. Whereas those that had a lot of experience and seen it over and over again and over again, they just communicated, this is normal, but they also knew how to look out for what was the problem. But they knew that nature, the natural process, was going to work so well the vast majority of time. And sure enough, that's just one example. If you could have that experienced midwife quality in yourself when you go to that scared place in yourself, instead of taking the inexperienced midwife who's going, oh my God, is it this? Is it preeclampsia? Oh my goodness, is what's going on? So you can decide to bring the experienced midwife to your feelings, and she's going to say, oh, this is completely natural. Relax, take another good breath. Your body knows what to do. And there's other, we reset. This is the miracle of it. I was telling Kathy that, years ago, I told her this, that when I reached puberty, I had been very asthmatic, serious. And that was the big stress of my early life, infancy, childhood, was severe allergies and asthma. And yet suddenly puberty happened, boom, it stopped, literally stopped, never came again. And I read recently that we've been studying this, science has been studying this. People literally, if that early experience was a stretch, even a very big, challenging stretch, like the times I almost, they rushed me to the hospital fearing I wouldn't breathe, I would suffocate and die. I don't remember those because I was an infant, I was a little child, but the point is, the body reset. And I've seen it again and again through these 40-something years of doing programs. We do these retreats. We call them an invitation to being radically alive, the basic core of aliveness. And lo and behold, people that come with all kinds of different kinds of problems, psychological, physical problems, that 10 days allows quite a number of people to reset, just like that, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I make this joke. Welcome to the 10-day radical aliveness. If you feel you're not going to, you feel you won't be 100% satisfied, I can guarantee you a different program called Golden Gate Bridge Seminars. Yes, 100% transformation, 2% survival. Yes, people, in the 2.5 seconds it takes to drop from the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco Bay Area and hit the water, 1 out of every 50 people lives. 2 out of 100 live. And every one of them is reset. Their lives are completely changed. From the overwhelming anguish and pain where they see no other choice but to take their own lives, in a 2.5 second plunge where there's no longer a future and no longer a past, and you've given up and you don't die, reset. And we know the same thing with near-death experiences. So the reason we're speaking of this is because you need to know you can reset, and there's a grace in it and a mystery in it. But there's also just what we said: become a better midwife to yourself. Practice it. So you were talking about how we learn that intelligence of journeying in our bodies. So why don't you guide that?
Okay.
We want to actually show you not the only practice, but the essence of a practice that is about, well, you talk about it.
Well, again, this is a meditation practice that really helps to anchor. We need to learn to anchor in the basic ground, in the basic field. And in that anchoring, we also are able to, with our awareness, with consciousness, we're able to then meet and work with any point of tension or contraction in the body. And one teacher once said that every point of tension and contraction in our bodies is actually condensed awareness. So wherever there's a contraction, wherever there's a holding, is an opportunity to release that contraction and expand our consciousness, expand the spaciousness within us. And from that, with that spaciousness, we can then navigate in the world in a very different way. So being able to anchor in the basic ground, really deep, like the deep roots of a tree, is a good image. So when we have that anchor, like the deep roots of a tree, the winds will blow and the storms will come, and we might lose all our leaves or break a few branches, but the roots are there, and life will continue, and not only in that living, but also thriving. So learning to anchor, learning to really ground, is a practice. And then from that place, we really have a capacity to keep our hearts open and our minds clear in the face of whatever arises. So strong emotions arise, panic, anxiety. Immediately, the first thing is becoming conscious of it. Okay, here it is. Now, let me take a breath. Let me take a breath. And in that, immediately some space opens up that you can have a relationship with whatever is there. And this is also a practice. And it's like building the inner muscles to stay present and aware in the face of sometimes overwhelming emotions or sensations, and also learning the language of the body, and it's very different from the mind, and the language of the body is sensation, is felt sense, somatic intuition. And when we can learn the language of the body, that's when we can really be the midwife, be the mother to ourselves, or the father to ourselves, that allows this the deeper healing to happen, so that we're not hijacked by or a victim of whatever circumstances we may have experienced.
Or if we do get hijacked, there's a moment when we land and we go, okay, I lost my center. I let some of my roots pull out. Okay, now, why did that happen? What was it that I didn't know how to hold? What was I telling myself? Oh, okay. Let's quiet down and come home.
So, shall we stop gossiping?
Yeah, well, let's Kathy's going to start us off along the lines of what she just was describing. The thing I want to say is, when in the image of, that a holding in the body is actually condensed awareness, holding in the body can feel terrible. It can feel like pressure. It can feel like choking. It can feel like unending grief. It can feel like so many things. It can just feel like boiling. It can feel like fire anywhere in the body. And the notion that, yes, it is condensed. It's condensed by your history and your unfamiliarity with relationship with that sensation or sensations like it. And that what it is actually condensed love. Mm-hmm. Because awareness for me is a little too abstract. It's yes, it is condensed consciousness, but it's condensed in a form that if you're gentle and if you begin to understand how to have a relationship with that, how to be that good midwife, the gentle mother, that attentive, alert father, that very thing that was chasing you, the kind of, like in dreams, the monster that keeps chasing you, the thing that's just always after you. It turns out it's actually turns into spaciousness. It turns into peace. It turns into love. Okay, now we'll stop gossiping.
Okay. Okay, so just finding a comfortable position wherever you are and feeling your feet on the floor. Close your eyes. And we're just turning our gaze inward. And now bring your awareness to your breath. So you're merging your awareness, connecting with the breath. So taking a few deep breaths. And as you really sense into the breath, there's an immediate spaciousness that you may feel, you may sense. And just letting everything else fade to the background. And always remind yourself to just relax. So we're just relaxing into our interior space. There's a sense of dropping in. Dropping into your interior landscape. And now I want you to imagine that feeling your feet, feeling where you're making contact with the floor, and imagining that the soles of your feet just open up, and it's like a clear channel.
Or like roots that go deep, deep, deep into the earth.
And on the inhale, I want you to imagine that the breath is pulling the energy up, say from the center of the earth. And with your awareness, you're traveling with the breath up through the body and up to the top of the head. So the in-breath travels from the center of the earth, say up to into your body to the top of the head. And then the exhale is back down through the body and out through the soles of the feet. So the breath is like a wave that comes in from the ocean, cresting on the shore, the breath coming up through the body, cresting at the top of the head. And the exhale is like the wave, receding back down through the body, out through the soles of the feet, and back into the ocean. So just take a couple of minutes to find your rhythm with your breath and this wave. And as you find your rhythm with the wave, on the exhale, as your awareness travels down through the body, just begin to notice. You're just noticing any place of holding or tension or contraction. And as the breath goes down through the soles of the feet, just inviting those parts of ourselves to relax. Just relax and release with the flow of that wave, with the flow of the breath. So whatever it is you're noticing, maybe some tension in the arms or shoulders or your thighs or the belly or the heart. Wherever you're noticing any holding, just gently inviting those parts to just relax and release. And as we relax, you may begin to sense this energy field. This groundless ground. Again, it's always here, always supporting us. And the deeper that we can just relax into it and just naturally be. And sensing into this space. Maybe sensing an energy of tingling, or it's really alive, awake, open, spacious. And this is our true nature, the nature of our being, our fundamental being. Our human nature.
All our lives, we have not really known our true nature. We learn to watch ourselves to see if what we're doing is getting us the attention we need or protecting us from the attention we don't want. So we tend to observe ourselves sometimes as a commentator, sometimes as a critic, sometimes with a part of ourselves that wants to make sure we're doing it right so that we'll be safe or appreciated or liked, which makes us feel safe. So those parts of the mind, even the part of your mind that says, I don't really know how to do this, it's like a woman in labor who's never had a baby before. And of course, I haven't either. I've been there quite a number of times years ago. And the midwife just says, oh, no, don't worry, don't worry. Don't worry, your head doesn't understand. Just relax, breathe, release. So let your narrator, your commentator, just notice that that's what the mind does. The doubter, disbeliever, whatever the mind is doing, just, yes, that too. And that's what the mind does. And it fills you up with the territory of its own worry or its own struggle or its own doubt. And just relax that. Come back to the breath. Come back to bringing that presence up through your deep roots from the center of the earth to the top of your head. And relax and release as you breathe out.
And it's resting in the natural great peace of our being, of this ground. The natural great peace. Incredibly nourishing for our bodies, for our minds, for our hearts. And it's really our basic sanity. Our minds can get caught in all kinds of confusion and thoughts, stories. You can trust in the basic ground. The one trustworthy thing that I found in my life.
Till you met me. In this time of COVID, there are situations that many of us are experiencing of lockdown, of being, in mandatory or advised stay-at-home rules. What it means is that the normal or familiar ways of keeping your energy flowing or distracting yourself from yourself, that they've been interrupted. And then you could say, oh, I'm trapped. But that's just a thought. What am I actually experiencing? Do you think there's any less deep reality in a moment in the house, in your apartment, that has less spaciousness, less of the beauty of the natural self? No, there's just the mind distressed, restless because it doesn't have its familiar distraction. That's sensation right now. And you can allow yourself, like the midwife, to say, yes, that's completely normal. Just feel that. Why not? Just feel restlessness. Watch your mind make you desperate. Oh no, I don't know how long I can do that. That's the mind making you desperate. Oh, okay, that's just my mind. What's actually happening right now here in me, in my being? I can feel this. Okay. I can breathe and relax. Come back to your body. It's always been breathing, even if your mind left completely for a little while somewhere else. That's what we do all the time. We go somewhere else in our mind. And we entertain ourselves or please ourselves or scare ourselves with that someplace else that we let the mind take us to. And all along the body's right here, breathing. Trillions of cells interacting with each other, trillions and trillions of chemical reactions. Life, right now, here. We've become addicted to the ways we scare ourselves and the ways we please ourselves with our minds. Now we've become addicted to the screens that we can look at, where our attention is being grabbed by other people's words, other people's sounds. Endless, endless input. Anything but knowing how to be in ourselves. So we're poorly trained for times like now. We don't have the experience to rest into ourselves. There's no less God in this moment when you're stay at home than there is any other moment. And if you don't like the word God, there's no less love. There's no less beingness. So we practice finding our breathing.
And it's also important that whenever you find yourself lost in a thought or distracted in whatever way, just gently bringing yourself back with deep compassion. Lovingly inviting yourself back, inviting your awareness back to this moment, to the present, aware, the body breathing, feeling the support of this ground, the ground of this existence.
Here am I. That coming home into ourselves, into the ground of our being, is like announcing to creation, here am I, right here. Building this anchor with your breath in your body right now, here, this. Relaxing, releasing, feeling what's there, just feeling, touching it softly and even more softly.
And if there's some place of contraction or holding that is difficult to relax, just touch it with love and compassion. No agenda. Just deep compassion for whatever's here. And a capacity to make space for all of it.
Kathy used the image of the tree with its roots deep in the ground, so that when the wind blows, the tree bends, maybe a few branches snap, but it remains rooted. And the notion of grounding and the notion of having the breath right now as an anchor, and just the image of an anchor. The boat is floating on the sea. The anchor goes down and grips the earth, grips the land beneath the water, burrows itself in. The tide changes. The boat swings around, but it doesn't go far from the anchor. The winds come, and the boat bobs and bounces, but it doesn't rip the anchor out. The anchor that is this moment is this breath flowing out of you or flowing into you. Here am I. Practicing finding the anchor in your breath and relating with gentleness and compassion to whatever's present in you. Making room for everything. Don't tell your aliveness it shouldn't feel something. Just feel. Really gently. Every sensation that's present in the body is there for a reason. It makes sense. So listen to it and feel it. Give it a chance to return. To becoming part of you, contributing to your completeness. Start again. Begin right now. This breath. To heal, we have to feel. This intimacy with ourselves is the fundamental intimacy. Whatever you have space to feel inside of yourself means you won't be threatened by that feeling if it's activated in a relationship. So you'll be able to be more intimate, more present in all of your relationships.
Yes, it's a direct correlation between your capacity and degree of intimacy that you experience with yourself is directly correlated to that which you can experience with another.
Just finding that rhythm just for one more minute or two. However you're experiencing it. Receiving the breath, the in-breath. Relaxing and releasing it. Giving away your out-breath. How you feel, how you touch what's happening inside of you is how you heal. It's in how you touch. And the awareness that you join with your breathing gives you an anchor in the body, in the breath, to visit fear and touch it. To begin to become literate with your feeling intelligence. Literate with sadness. Feeling it. Touching it softly, it changes. The softer you touch, the more it starts to move and return back to consciousness, return back to spaciousness, return back to love. So this is the art of resiliency. It's how you touch. Right now, with your aware self, anchored with your breath. Touch anything, everything. Nothing is unwelcome.
And the fundamental nature of your awareness is unconditional love and compassion.
Nothing is unwelcome. No feeling, no sensation. Because if it is unwelcome, that's because of how you're touching it. You're saying no to it. Like a child would. No, I don't want this. Someone make it better. Someone fix it. But now you're the child. And you're the wise midwife, the compassionate mother, the thoughtful father. Nothing is unwelcome. You may not know what to do with it at first, but how you touch it is how it begins to speak to you, show you, guide you, change you, and it changes. So it's this relationship with yourself that is the root of resiliency. So however you've journeyed with us, trust what you've experienced, your imagery, what you could join with, what you couldn't join with. Trust your own, make it your own. Maybe a couple of good deep breaths, a little stretch, come back. We have some time to see what's emerging. Just notice how you feel. Notice what worked for you, what didn't. what you could join with, what you resisted. Just notice and trust yourself.
Are we going to ask questions?
Yeah.
So if you have a question or sharing an experience, you can, I guess, write into, is it a chat on YouTube? I'm not sure how it works, Christian. And our moderator will just go through the comments and maybe offer one of the comments or questions, and we can respond.
Hi, Christian.
Hi.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Just to say that the YouTube chat is indeed open and people have already written things in it. And so now you can also write questions in it. So
We imagine there could be quite a number of things coming onto the YouTube chat. So I'm sure it's not easy for Christian to sort it, but we thought if we could respond to something, it would probably be something that would be fairly universal, that almost anyone would like to reflect on.
Mm-hmm. And while we're waiting, I just want to add one thing that came to me in the meditation, just about, the nature of this existence and our true nature, and the groundless ground that we were anchoring into. The Buddhists called it a Buddha nature. So it's our Buddha nature. And they called it Buddha nature because Buddha was the one who realized it. But it's not just the nature of the Buddha, it's all of our nature. And the same thing when I think about the awareness and consciousness. And you've talked about like Christ consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and a stream that the Christ brings of love and compassion. And it was the Christ who brought it, but it's all of our nature. So it's really settling into that everything that we long for is within it. We have the innate capacity to realize it all.
And I want to add, yes, it's within, but the idea that the within is separate and individual, that's a fallacy. As you go deep enough within, you discover that relational consciousness, or as we talk about it, our third, is actually taking us deeper into ourselves, and it is more than either one of us.
Yeah.
And so if I have a particular way of being strong in myself, that can become the barrier to actually deepening into intimacy with you. Mm-hmm. And the reason we're talking about this is because throughout these 6 webinars, we are going to continue to emphasize the relational journey. That the avatar is not someone like the Christ or the Buddha that came in and achieved some form of completeness or incarnation of the divine, which is what an avatar is, but that it's actually all of us, all of us. And that the evolutionary forefront of that is not the realization any longer or the enlightenment any longer of an individual, but the enlightenment of people through relationship. It's really, to the extent that Buddha was in relationship to the Sangha and to the teaching, that's one thing. but it's the extent to which we're actually capable of intimacy and deep, limitless intimacy with another, which is the evolutionary threshold necessary for human beings right now, for us to survive. But it's more than survival. It's more than, it's thriving, but it's even more than thriving. It's the deepest upwelling of joy and gratitude, and endlessly. But it's the source of that is not just in us as individuals, it's in this we.
And for me, really, the coming home to the heart, coming home to my basic humanity, but it's also our shared humanity, or that in that space we know the interconnectedness of all of life, and that we're not separate from anyone or anything. And so this deep humility, this deep knowing of interconnectivity and care and love for all of life, for all of existence.
That ability to feel that in ourselves, that's the resonance with the profound morality that is nature, the living current of nature. Everything in nature belongs. Everything is in connection to everything else. Many things are hostile to other things, but all in a context of belonging, of connection. Nothing can completely dominate anything else, because if it does, then the structure for its own existence is threatened. So that understanding that there will always be hostility, at the same time, hostility in a greater context of belonging, that's what's missing in human beings. People have differences, and sometimes in our differences, we're hostile. And yet, if we start to feel what Kathy's talking about, it's not just within us, it's within us because we are part of nature, inseparable from her. And her natural order is the highest morality there is. And
really, when you help another, the truth is you're also helping yourself. Or if in relationship, we were in a session with a couple yesterday about, sometimes you do something out of love for the other, but it's really out of love also for the relationship, because the relationship is what feeds all of us.
Yeah, rather than try to love someone else, just go and say, how can I honor the relationship? How can I express love of the relationship? Because that encompasses 1, 2, 3. But the deeper the relationship goes, it becomes 10 or 20 or 100 or really infinite. Well, we see you there, Christian. So maybe there's something to bring before, so we have some time to address that.
Yes, there is several very beautiful sharings, and also one question in particular, which is very practical actually, and might interest many people. So I read out this question. Do you have any suggestions how to connect on a deeper level in video call with your partner if you are in a long distance relationship and you cannot meet each other personally because of Corona?
That is a lovely question. Well, in fact, that's how we are working in mentoring people from all over. It's all by Zoom or Skype now. So what I do is I remember and remind myself that the distance that the mind perceives is not the distance that the heart experiences. That if I drop deeper into myself while I'm presencing with someone else, we're dropping in together.
And that's the space that I was talking about, that in that space, in that connection, there is no separation. And that kind of communion can be felt, can be directly experienced. And sure, it's nicest to be in the physical in many ways, but it's that
It's
heart connection.
definitely wonderful to be in the
Okay,
physical.
but that it's that heart connection, that there is no separation, and it's possible, and you can feel it, and you can engage from that heart space that, you know, is just as real as you know, being with the other.
And I don't know whether that question came from a man or a woman. Doesn't matter, because there you are, let's say using Zoom, and you're tuning in. And is this the time to share something challenging with who you're tuning in with? Is this the moment to go there? Is this the moment to just share simple things of the day? Is this the moment to ask the other where their energy is at, because you really want to share something deep within yourself? And you're always listening in yourself, you're listening to the other, and you're listening to the relational space. Mm-hmm. And you just do that. It's like if I come down the stairs and I see Kathy at her computer on the couch, I pause before I say something. I think to myself, I wonder what space she's in, what's occupying her attention, and then easing into that, I may see if she's ready for some form of engagement and wants to share where she's at. That kind of attunement to whoever's on the other side of that screen, and then listen to what happens when you share. Because if you speak from your heart, and your mind is just simply the servant of your heart, your mind gives you the words, but it's not your mind that is the center of what you're doing with that person. So if your heart mind is communicating, it doesn't need many words. And all you have to do is say the words that really connect you and to some truth about who you're with, and that will ignite your whole body. I mean, that will ignite you. Even, we like the word erosic as opposed to erotic, because erotic just seems to talk about basically genital excitement. Erosic is heart excitement, the whole body's excitement. So yes, when you're talking to someone and you can't be physically present, let it be the heart mind that's communicating, and really listen and reveal yourself. And is it a time to reveal yourself? Is it a time to invite the other to reveal? If you get reactive, can you wait and stay quiet for a little while and say, "Oh, fertilizer."
Yeah.
Hallelujah, I'm reacting. Darling, whoa, that threw me off balance. Give me a minute. Give me a few seconds. Yes, every aspect of what's possible except physical intimacy. But I'm talking about all the juice of intimacy is still possible with your beloved on the other side of that screen. And if it's not your beloved, if it's a friend, then what's possible in the context of friendship? You know, because everyone in a way can be your beloved. Every moment is the beloved. Now, Christian, share one of the things that you thought was a beautiful sharing, not a question.
Well, this was actually a sharing that came quite early on in the proceedings. When you said, Richard, to heal, we have to feel. Someone actually just mirrored that in the chat, so it must have resonated. Somebody else said, I love the experienced midwife metaphor. And then someone said, no, not gossiping, teaching, love you.
Well, we like to play, and Kathy sometimes throws me off balance and says, shall we stop gossiping?
Because what we're gossiping about, and yes, it is a teaching, you're absolutely right, but it's more of just a playful way of saying, like, let's stop talking about it and let's have a direct experience. So thank you.
There is also one other question that could be really interesting. Just give me one moment. Now I've lost it again because it's such a long thing.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody also on that previous question, somebody else commented on it saying, the distance that the mind perceives is not what the heart experiences.
Mm-hmm.
How about setting the intention for connection before the time you spend with your partner?
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Light your candle, literally or metaphorically. Get quiet. And when you have the idea of your partner, there's you. I'm drawing a circle. There's your partner. There's your relationship. There's the three of you there. You're sitting around the sacred fire of beingness.
Mm-hmm.
You and your partner and the relationship. And then you go, oh, I think I know what my mind says it wants to talk about. I wonder what the relationship wants. Get quiet, listen. And what might it invite?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really being mindful about that, because sometimes the right conversation at the wrong time is actually the wrong conversation. So yeah, paying attention to that as well.
Yeah, if there's a pressure to share something, don't share it. Wait till there's no pressure. Because if the pressure to share something, that's a younger part of you. It's a younger part of you, and it's much more likely to react or to share in a way that's not really attuned to what's happening actually in the moment between you and your friend, beloved partner. I'm looking at the intent focus of Christian, because we can see Christian on our screens as he's looking at what's coming up in the YouTube chat.
Yeah.
We've just got a minute or two left, so
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that's what we've purposely said. Well, I just might say that, it's not too late to tell your friends to join this. This is freely given because we want to see this basic ground of understanding spread, because it is universal. It doesn't exclude any religion. It doesn't belong to men or women in some separate way, as many of the religious teachings used to be separating men and women. This is a universal, and it's what we're living.
Mm-hmm.
So we know the reality of what we're learning, and the endlessness of it, and the beauty of it.
And I love, in Arabic, the word for humanity is nas, and Arabic is a very poetic language, and the meaning of nas, the meaning of humanity, is the ones who have forgotten. It's like we've forgotten who we are and where we come from, and this is a remembering and a connecting with our basic humanity, and in that, life is such a beautiful play.
Connecting deep into your feeling intelligence. So you're becoming literate in your feeling aliveness, in your embodiment, because that links you to the natural order, that current of intelligence, that, as I said before, that incredible, unspeakably amazing morality that is the natural order, that so far transcends any form of human morality. And you only can know it through feeling.
Yeah.
You have to sense it.
And for me, it was really like a sense of coming home to the heart. And when we can come home to our heart, from that place is the interconnectedness of all of life. And we're not separate.
And Kathy, I'm coming home to my heart every day more and more through our relationship. And it's a surprise and a sense of wonderment day by day by day, that whatever I've known of the heart is constantly being enriched by our relational friend, our third. Well, I think we have used the time up. Was there something specific there, Christian?
Well, there is just one other, there are many interesting questions, but this one in particular, maybe you hold the space by being connected. You also hold the space by what you are saying. Could you comment on how you use the words to continue holding this sacred space?
Well, think about two kinds of intelligence, where the words lead you into emotion. Okay, so you say words like "you don't care about me," and then you feel anger or resentment or bitterness, or you say words that come from the heart that are based in connection, right? And that heart mind, that heart intelligence, creates a sacred space. It actually creates the energy of relationship, which deepens. It's a field. It happens in the moment. You feel it. And all you have to do is connect a few times like that, or briefly in the source. So anytime you feel your body getting agitated or contracting, you know your words are leading you toward falseness. It's false. It's not based on a real ground. Every time your words activate a sense of aliveness in you, softness, a gratitude, a joy, you know your words are true. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. Your body tells you. Mm-hmm. Right in, if those words are disconnected from the body, pretty soon people will get tired of it. They won't really listen to you anymore. And it'll be the most frustrating thing in a couple if those words just keep coming and coming and coming, but they're not listening to the body. They're just a head construction, mm-hmm. over and over and over and over. So that's the briefest answer I have in the moment.
Yeah, and one of my teachers, he talks about that the universe is sound-based. So words, when they're spoken, they have a resonance, which is really saying the same thing as what you're articulating, is that when the words come from the heart, there's a resonance that allows for a connection, just like the words that come from contraction or fear, just stimulate more fear. So words are important. It's also really paying attention to your words as and because they have a vibration.
So when we talk about our third, and we'll talk about it more over and over again, when we talk about that third consciousness, it's built moment by moment by moment. And so if it's being dismantled by your words, stop. Just stop. Because what you mean when you say sacred space is something you feel. It's that your words are building it in that moment. The third is becoming a living presence. And then it will feed you. It'll feed you for hours, minutes, days, But if you dismantle it with your words, then it will keep trying somehow to call you back. All right, friends, this is wonderful. We'll be with you in 2 weeks. Please keep sharing this. Let people know. Let them join. It's freely given.
And thank you for sharing your time with us. Mm-hmm. And really, may this be a blessing for all sentient beings.
May the source be with you. Thank you.